All right, it is 6 p.m. on June 9th, 2025. Call to order the special regular meeting for Woodford County Public Schools here at the board office. Roll call, we have 4 members here in person. 1 member is out of town, Ms. Springate. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Nothing, wasn't me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Ms. McCown, you want to kick us off with our good news report?
Sure, I can start us off. One of the things that I often talk about in all aspects of business and life really is accountability. And so I heard from lots of staff after our last board meeting about how we notified folks of the selection of our new superintendent. And folks felt hurt and disappointed and frustrated with our communication, just notifying them of the selection. So I would just like to take this opportunity to apologize for my part in that, in making sure that staff were notified in a timely way about that appointment. So that's all I have. I just want to say that I'm sorry for any disappointment, frustration, and hurt that caused, that lack of communication. So thank you.
I've mentioned a couple of times, I sometimes go to the track, walk and watch our athletes practice, and I've commented about what great citizens they are and what good athletes. And at the state meet, it all came to fruition. We had state champions, we did very well, and well done track team, boys and girls. Thank you.
Dr. Gould?
I wanted to second what Ms. McCowan said. I appreciate that she brought that up and acknowledged that, and I agree wholeheartedly. I apologize for the way that the information was distributed. I feel like it was not intentional in nature. It just was a misstep and definitely a learning opportunity, and wanted just to say that it was not intentional in any capacity, and we're sorry that the information went out in a slower fashion than we had intended. Again, it was not intentional or meant to be disruptive in any capacity, but it is what happened, and I think it's important for us to own our responsibility in it. So I just thank you for bringing that up, and I just wanted to echo that as well. One thing that I wanted to share on a positive note is that we have been working to plan a Woodford County Public Schools wellness event that's going to be taking place in September of this year, back when the new school year starts, at a football game. I believe it's going to be September 12th. It's a home game. The event will start a little bit early, and then there will be several booths that will take place, all focused around wellness, so from our community members. So it can be anything from screenings to fitness challenges to mindfulness, to sources of strength, all kinds of different pieces of information, and community members coming together to take part in that event. So more information will come, but I just wanted to put it on everybody's radar and get people prepared to come out and enjoy that great event. So we're hoping to have some door prizes and some things like that associated with it, but it's a really good opportunity to network within the community and get to know some opportunities for wellness, because we do have lots of resources here.
And yeah, I'll agree with the communication on the announcement. Thank you for bringing that up. And that is something that we wish we would have done a little better. The Kids Win Parade went really well. I want to thank everyone who volunteered for that, for setting it up, for the staff and all the students that participated in the floats and the event afterwards with all the food. And thank you so much for putting all that together. It was a great time for all the students. They had a lot of fun, and all the food trucks and everything that was there. So appreciate that. All right, next we're going to go to the new high school project update. Do we have anything on that?
Good evening. So we do not have anything specifically new on the update for the high school. I had mentioned at the last meeting that I was going to try to bring a quote for the sidewalk extension. I do not have that yet. I will bring that to the July meeting if I have that. Still working on the grandstand and the scoreboard at the athletic field. So I was by there today. They're making a lot of progress. So hopefully, I was told a couple weeks ago that they're still a couple weeks out, but they're obviously not finished, but they're getting very, very close. So that's all I have on the high school.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you care to talk about there was an incident at the new high school with the basketball goal coming loose and injuring a student? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. I was notified on May 29th that one of the goals, one of the backboards had fallen on a student over there. We contacted the construction manager, Trace Creek, and had them to contact the installer and come out and do basically a survey of the equipment to verify that the other goals were safe to be able to use. But it looks like there may have been an installation error there that caused that accident.
Thank you.
I had a question. You may not be able to answer this, but we had approved a change order for lights around the flagpole a long time ago, I believe it was, and I just haven't noticed that being constructed. So I just was wondering if they were still planning on doing that, as well as the situation with the gate. Just was wondering where we were with those things.
Situation with the gate. So the gate is on order. I know that the posts were installed to be able to mount the gate to. I think they're just waiting on the gate to come in. As far as the lot for the flagpole, and I could be wrong, if I remember correctly, it was to have a lot mounted at the top of the flagpole, or I think it's at the top of the flagpole. I think it's installed. Yeah, I think it's installed. I can certainly follow up with them about that, but I think that change had been made already. So.
Thank you. I was looking for lights around the,
Right.
shine up. So.
Yeah, and that's what made me think about it when you said that, because I'm pretty sure the change order, there was something with the specification that the light was to be mounted at the top of the pole and shine down, but I will definitely
Okay.
double check that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Moving on to curriculum and instruction update.
Ms. Tracy will actually be doing the update tonight as it relates to summer school, so she oversees that. But if there are any questions for me, I'll take those now. If not, I'll hand over to her.
Okay, today is instructional day 1 of elementary summer school. On your screen, you can see the dates and locations and times, just the overall summer school plans for this year. High school is already over. It was 1 week. It is a lot smaller this year in the time span and the amount of students that were actually involved because of the winter school success that we had. And so there was an update earlier in the semester about all the credits recovered through winter school. And so that was a success in coordination also with our school within a school program, which has really beefed up, and that's probably not the best phrase that I could have given you, but they've been very intentional, that's better, about their work this year and credit recovery. Safe Harbor also started last week. It's 2 days a week. Elementary started today. It's 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. The middle school also started. The middle school started as credit recovery only, and they were able to recover. They don't actually have credits, but pass fails. And so they were able to pass all their students except for 2. And so they are using those ESS funds to do some more remediation type and intervention, fun activities to get kids in the building. And there was an invitation put out. So they're trying something new this year. So they had 2 credit recovery kids and then some what they're calling Tiger Camp kids. Josh, will you forward for me? Thank you. So a little bit of information about those different levels. The high school had 51 students that participated and 57 credits recovered. Safe Harbor is today on day 3. Well, we'll be on day 3 tomorrow. And I told you today was day 1. 2 credit recovery students, they're trying to recover 4 different classes. So they'll be working on that. And 14 students attended Tiger Camp today. So there is a little flyer over there to the side about the Tiger Camp. And you'll see that it has different themes each week, and the students can sign up per week. So they didn't have to sign up for the whole thing. Targeting middle school students to get them there all summer could be a challenge and could be something that they're not willing to do. And so it is a week by week. And so this week it happens to be 14 kids. And then today at the elementary was day 1. There's always some transportation on day 1, but everybody got there and got home. And there were 191 kids invited. So there were a few kids that had illness today and a few kids that were on summer vacation. And so we were not at capacity. We had 155 students present today. So off to a good start in both of those though. And one more, Josh. There are a couple of other opportunities that I'm just bringing your attention to. They're not programs that I oversee necessarily, but they are connected to. And so a lot of times in Woodford County, if you're hearing questions about summer school, they're going to encompass all of these things. They're going to say things and they're not really going to know the difference. So I wanted to give you a heads up about them. So ESY is our extended school year, and those are really our special education students. That's happening at Huntertown, and it starts tomorrow. It's only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our MEP is our migrant education programs, and there's a camp that's going on. It's going on 3 days this week and 3 days next week, and we are providing transportation. That's from K all the way up to 12, so there's a wide variety of ages in that group, and that's Yesenia Flores that is the coordinator for that program. Tracy Francis is our coordinator for ESY, if you have questions about that also. Then there's an opportunity this year that we kind of tapped into at Kentucky State University, Summer STEM Momentum Program. And so it is targeting our Spanish-speaking students, high school students rising 10th through 12th grade. And it's the month of June 2nd through the 27th. We had 18 parents confirmed that the students were going to attend, and 4 of them are going to be residential. So there was a commuter option, there's a virtual option, and there was also a residential overnight. So they're getting the feel of a campus life, getting some exposure to some courses that they might not have that opportunity here within our walls. So that's a brief overview of what's going on this summer with our kiddos and curriculum. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
You have something?
Can you talk a little bit about the MEP program and exactly what kinds of things are going on with that one?
I wish I could.
Oh.
I know that they're there, and I know that it's a camp, and I know that they're getting opportunities for enrichment. Whenever I was at Huntertown today, I saw kids in one room. The age groups are separated. They're not all together. I saw kids working on writing. I saw kids that had Play-Doh in one room that were building something. So I'm thinking a STEM type of activity. But no, I don't coordinate it. So just kind of making you more aware. One thing that I did not touch on that you're going to talk about MEP?
Specifics.
Sure.
Do you have specifics related?
Just what kinds of, so is it a camp, or is it reading and math? Or is it?
Are you asking strictly for the summer piece of this?
Yeah, like what's the focus of that?
Yes, it is foundational skills, much like our standard summer programming, but it's targeted towards our migrant population. That program overall services a little more extensively. It is just basic needs, basic physical needs, all the way through academics. So it's a little bit of everything. Those programs are encouraged because that is federal funding that we get, and we answer to our local is out of Richmond, and they really want year-round type programming. So that's where that stems from.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The thing I was going to mention in addition to our elementary summer schools, we've partnered for the 3rd year in a row with Kentucky Equity-Based Tutoring Program. And so that's through Pearson, and they provide 16 tutors that are hired through Pearson, and they're vetted. So they're well to work with our kids, background checked and cleared. But they provide interventions through the day, and then we're tracking that data on AIMSWeb Plus. So in addition to what we already provide, the literature or the literacy and math components that we provide just at the tier 1 level, they're also getting tier 2 and tier 3 interventions and SEL lessons each day with these Pearson tutors. And so we're fortunate to have that, and you guys had approved that earlier in the year, that agreement, so I appreciate that. And that was off to a great start today too.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you so much. All right. We don't have any public comment, so can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, moving on to the regular agenda, and I am going to adjust letter R, approve FY26 insurance renewal, because we do have our insurance agents that showed up today. So just to be courteous to you, so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. If you guys want to be available, Mr. Smith, you want to talk about that?
I'll invite Mr. Scott Tarvin and Mr. Fred Meyer up here. Mr. David Livingston typically gives the presentations to the board about our insurance. He couldn't be here tonight, so he sent these two gentlemen, and they're here to answer any specific questions that you may have, specifically related to the insurance renewal. But as you see on your screen, so I'll just kind of briefly run through these premium comparisons compared to what we had last year versus this year, the total premium costs, and then we'll talk about any questions that you have there. With the property and casualty, you'll see the Liberty Mutual premium and the policy amounts for last year. In the left column, the 2025-26 amounts, you'll see there's a significant difference in the property value, and that's because we added the high school, right? So the difference between that 295 million to the 216 million is largely the new high school. The flood coverage limit stays the same at 1 million. The earthquake limit stays the same at 5 million. And so there you get down to the package premium, the auto premium, the umbrella premium, with the total property and casualty total of $812,510. And again, that's adding a 200,000 square foot building, football field, et cetera, to that. Do you have any questions about that particular policy before we move on?
I have a question, and I apologize, just clarify. With the auto premium, it's gone up quite a bit. Well, looks like a lot of money to me. How did that change? Did we add more vehicles to our fleet, or is it just the cost of insurance now? But why did the premium go up for the auto?
Well, I think excuse me. Yeah, part of it is I think if we've all noticed just the marketplace in general. Auto insurance by itself has just gone up. We're seeing a lot more accidents, especially in the state of Kentucky right now. What we're seeing, especially with school buses across the state, is we are seeing many, many accidents, and we are seeing very, very large claims coming out. And that's causing significant payouts and lawsuits and things like that. And that is what's driving a lot of this premium rising. So I wish we could get it under control to some degree, but just right now, it's just the state of the marketplace, especially in Kentucky right now. And that is, and that's what's affecting a lot of it, driving. And then I think Woodford has been, we've taken some losses over the last 3 or 4 years. And that's another piece that's driving just as a school system specific. And that's also going to drive that rate. So it's a couple different factors.
Thank you. I kind of figured that, but I thought it was worth asking
Yeah,
about.
sure, sure.
So the recommendation would be to accept the coverage through Liberty Mutual for the property and casualty. On the next page, we're going to talk about the workers' compensation. You'll see the total payroll numbers. Kimi is who has carried our workers' comp for several years, and I think they basically carry 98% of the districts in the state. The premium for FY 25-26 would be $122,229 based on the estimated payroll. So we would recommend that you accept Kimi as the insurance provider for workers' comp. The only thing I would add about that, and Mr. Livingston presented that a couple weeks ago when he was here, you know, our experience modification rating is very good. Now, some of that is indicative of some of the years that are coming out of COVID where we didn't have a lot of folks on site and we had a very low EMOD rating. So I think a lot of districts had that, but we've had several conversations. We haven't had a lot of workers' comp claims, which is a good thing. So that's beneficial to our workers' comp premium. So the next page just talks about the changes in the 2025-2026 Liberty Mutual renewal. Talks about the property deductible. That has gone up to $25,000 per incident, and then the auto comprehensive collision deductible is $5,000. The uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage is $500,000. Firearms exclusion that does not apply to SROs. Law enforcement $10,000 deductible, and then the liability umbrella $5 million coverage with $10,000 worth of self-insured retention. We typically in the past have always declined the terrorism premium, that TRIA line option, but we have the past few years bought down that deductible buy down. For $49,500, we can buy the wind hail deductible per location down from $100,000 to $25,000 per location. So we believe, especially with the number of wind and hail damage claims that we've had in the last couple of years, we would request that you accept coverage for that. The next page just talks about all these possible non-insured coverages that we typically decline, and that would be the recommendation again this year. And then on the wind hail deductible buy down option, obviously if you choose to accept that buy down, that shows you what the per building, because one of the options you could do instead of doing the blanket for $49,000, you could just buy the premium buy down per location. Obviously that's always very unpredictable, so we would just assume that we buy the entire buy down package. And so with that, I believe the only other two things, there are two attachments that are retroactive coverages that and I spoke to Mr. Livingston for a little while on the phone last week about this. The recommendation is to decline those retroactive coverages. Without accepting those, we're covered all the way back to, I believe, 1992 on those types of claims. If we accept that coverage, we get a little bit cheaper premium. However, it opens us up to claims that would only go back until 2015. So anything prior to 2015, we would be opened up to. And so the recommendation is to decline those coverages. So lastly, the cyber policy. I'm sorry, I did skip the cyber policy. The 2025-2026 cyber policy, actually, it's gone down about $4,000 over what we paid for in 2024-2025. That'd be $21,746. So the coverage limits look to be the same as what we've had in years past. So the recommendation would be to accept that coverage.
All right. Anybody have questions? All right. Can I have a motion to approve FY26 insurance renewal?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, no problem. All right, so back to the regular agenda. Can I have a motion to approve May financial report, treasurer's report? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Discussion?
Yes, thank you. That's the balance sheet. So as usual, I'm going to go over the balance sheets for the primary funds. First one is general fund. The ending balance at the end of May is $8,895,584. You can see under the net change for the period, for revenues, we took in $1.398 million, and the expenditures were $3.124 million. In the special revenue fund, the fund balance is $23,354. the special revenue fund always fluctuates. We have to do federal cash requests through that, so that's why that fund balance has dipped down. But it'll go back up as it normally has after we get the federal cash request put in. Fund 21 is the school activity fund, the district activity fund. Fund balance $480,831. Fund 25 is a school activity fund. The fund balance is $494,602. The capital outlay 310 and 320 will both net to zero. So we're at the end of the year. Those are essentially finished up. There was the capital funds request that we discussed last month that was moved into the general fund, and there is a special project set aside for that 94,000 and some change that would be sitting there in the general fund. Go on down, Josh, to Fund 51, please. Fund 51, Food Service Fund. So the fund balance there is $984,332. I will say that won't be the finishing ending balance. Obviously, we've got summer feeding programs. And the one thing that skews this just a little bit are the pension and OPEB adjustments that are in there from last year. Once we close the year out, and make all the finishing adjustments for those actuarial adjustments, that fund balance will not be $984,000. What I like to recommend to people, if you look in the revenue control and the expenditure control, the revenues for the year are $2.419 million. The expenditures are $2.107 million. If you net those two numbers out, the differential there is approximately $301,000. That's the actual cash flow, which for a proprietary fund, which the food service and the daycare funds are, I prefer to look at the cash difference there, and that tells you the fund health of that. Going down to the next fund, Fund 52 is the daycare operation fund. Same thing. The ending balance there is $1.177 million. If you look at the revenue control of $1.525 million with the expenditure control of $643,000, you have approximately $900,000 of cash flow available in that fund. So that's a very healthy fund. And the community education fund balance got $19,299 in it. So what questions do you have for me on the financials?
Do you think you could talk about the question that I had emailed you with the expenditures and the revenue for the general fund when I was, if somebody else might have that question too?
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, if you wouldn't mind, pull up the financial document that's in there on the agenda.
And I can kind of give some context if you want to, but I was just looking at the Munis report at the totals for the general fund figures, and right below the total expenditures portion of that, under what I shared with Mr. Smith was that I understand that those numbers represent total revenue minus total expenses, but it was the figures that are in the available budget column at the far right that were kind of throwing me off. So I wasn't sure if it meant that we were anticipating $19 million more in expenses before the end of the fiscal year, but he explained it to me. And you all probably already know what it is, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I've said numerous times, the on behalf payments that we are required to reflect on our financials always skew the picture and make it somewhat difficult to understand. Those are non-cash balances that we have to reflect because those are the on behalf payments the state of Kentucky pays on a school district's behalf for the insurance portion. And the budgets that are put in there reflect the way I do it. So that $10 million and some change that's in there reflects basically what the state of Kentucky paid for Woodford County schools last year for that health insurance. And so in the budget, I budget that amount of revenue and that amount of expense. And so while we never see that $10 million worth of cash, I have to reflect it in both the revenue and the expense. And what that does, when you look in that available budget revenue column and you see $19 million, you know, it would lead you to think that, wow, we've still got $19 million worth of expenditures that may hit our financials. But what you have to do is you have to deduct out that on behalf amount, which in this case is a little over $10 million. You have to back out our contingency, which is a little over $5 million out of memory. If you net those two together and subtract that from the 19 million, that leaves a little bit more than $3 million that's actually available for expending per our budget from now until June 30th. And so the same thing with the revenues. We have that $10 million reflected in the revenue budget. And if I remember correctly, the available budget and revenue was a little over $11 million. So if you net those two together, the differential was approximately $400,000 worth of revenue that we have not yet recorded. And I'm confident that we will have that 400,000 plus a little bit by the time the end of the year is completed and we have everything recorded. So again, that $10 million does skew the numbers and the information, but that's sort of the explanation as to what you have to think about when you look at that. So hopefully that helps. I know that probably made it as clear as mud, but
No, that makes sense.
okay.
We have to reflect it because the state's giving us the money, but we don't get to keep it. It's just getting paid out through,
Yeah,
you know.
that's
us.
right.
Yeah,
We don't get it, we don't spend it, but we have to reflect it on the paper.
Yeah.
So,
perfect.
Thank you.
yes.
All right. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor of approving the May financial report, treasurer's report? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 4-0. All right. Can I have a motion to accept notification of personnel matters? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to accept notification of payment of bills? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion?
I had something else I wanted to point out on this one. You all may have seen it, but one of the items on our list of bills was like $48,759.76 to the city of Versailles. And so I was like, what is that for? Because I hadn't seen that before. But Mr. Smith explained that one as well. I don't know if you want to touch on it or if you want me to just kind of share. But basically, hold on, I'm sorry, now I can't even find it. Utility payments. It was utilities for the city of Versailles for Community Stadium. So there was $27 worth of utilities and then another $20,000 that we were billed for light repairs. So that kind of gets into the community stadium contract and some of the way that is drafted and the language that's used in there. But it definitely, I don't know if we have we had utility bill like that before for the community stadium?
We have the utility bill. I looked last year was approximately $19,000 or $20,000. It was very close to the same number. I think the differential last year, our bill for light repairs was $3,000, and this year it was 27 or 20,000. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? Now, I have not seen the contract for community stadium, so I have to say that first and foremost. But how does that get differentiated between the other groups that are using community stadium? Do we cover all the cost of the utilities and the repairs, or is that parsed out in some capacity? Because there's several different groups that utilize that area.
To my understanding, the district has covered the full cost of whatever that utility bill is. If I remember correctly, the contract states from, I think, August 15th to November 15th or November 1st. It's that period of time. And they do send us an invoice every year that shows each month what those costs are. But we just cover that cost at the district level.
So we are covering the cost for like WISA, Bluegrass Club Soccer, the Quarterback Club. Any time that there's another facility, another group out there, we are inquiring the cost. I just want to make sure I understand that correctly.
So the invoice I received does say the amount per, Woodford County Public Schools. What I don't know about, I don't know how the city or the fiscal court determines that allocation, so.
Is that something that we can maybe inquire about as that area continues to get used from different organizations? I mean, it's a shared space, so it seems like the cost sharing should also follow suit with that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's something, definitely as we look to renew the contract in the future, that's probably some of the language I would recommend that we include in there to make sure that we have some better understanding of how those allocations are made, as well as some negotiation in being part of the process for, just like these light repairs, just to make sure that we're included in that process fully.
Are we responsible for like the lights and utilities in other areas of the county park, like the baseball areas, the crib, those areas as well? Or is it just community stadium that we're paying the utilities for?
So this particular charge is just for community stadium. I do think we get other much smaller invoices. I know we have to pay some additional fees to use the fields, but I do think, don't quote me, I'll have to look this up and research this, but I do think we've gotten some smaller utility bills for these other areas, so.
So it could be possible that there is a shared cost. It sounds like maybe.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do some further follow-up to find out for sure about that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor of accept notification of payment of bills? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve minutes of the May 5th, 2025, May 6th, 2025, May 13th, 2025, May 15th, 2025, May 19th, 2025 board meetings? All right, motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Dr. Gould. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve change to the written meal charge policy, first reading? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? Ms. Squires here if we do have any questions.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Courtney. So I have not seen the previous one. What was changed on this? I'm so sorry.
So
to
what
ask.
was changed, previously, students were only allowed to charge up to $10 on their account, and I put that they could charge up to 10 days' worth of meals. And the old policy also said that we would, if the kids didn't have enough money in their account, we would give them an alternative meal. We don't do that, we just give them a meal. So I'd like to change that language too.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. I do have a follow-up question. So as far as like extras and things like that, is there any policy related, and that maybe it doesn't need to be on here, but if there is a child that is, I speak from my own children, who is excessively charging extras, is there like a cap or a limit in
So parents
place?
contact me directly.
Okay.
And I can put a
You can put a
limit
cap.
on their accounts.
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
That happens a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it definitely racks up the bill for sure. So I'm just
does.
curious. I didn't know if that was like corresponding language or not, but I love the changes. Thank you so
So
much.
that would be contacting you. There's nothing, because I know there's an app,
Yeah.
right, where you can go and look. There's not a way
There
to put
is
it.
on my school bucks, but I don't believe there's anything that you can put in there saying they can't
Mm-hmm.
charge however much they want. All of our elementaries, I believe, only allow 1 or 2 charges. And then some even on certain days only do ice cream on Fridays, that kind of thing.
Is there like, but there's not on the My School Books, is there a line item where you can see what they've charged?
Yes.
Okay, so you just go into My School Books and you can observe that. Okay, that's great information.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I appreciate the changes.
Yes.
Oh, good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right. Can I have a motion to approve Community Eligibility Provision, CEP, for Simmons Elementary and Safe Harbor Academy? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. And any questions or discussion on this?
I have a question that's kind of related to this, but maybe I'm just going to ask it, and correct me if I'm wrong. So with the summer feeding program, that's on a different financial space. I know we email back and forth, but that's a different
It's a different
buffet-
program.
bucket, yes. And so for the summer program to continue to be viable, people need to utilize it. So
Correct.
this is not just for low SES, free and reduced lunch.
We target sites where eligibility is higher, but no, any student can participate, or they don't even have to be a student.
And you want them to participate.
And we want
correct?
them to,
Okay.
yes. And we're everywhere this summer. We're at the library, we're at the summer schools, Falling Springs, Journey Camp, Hugs and Hissy Fits, we're all over the place.
And it is beneficial to that program to get use out of that program. I think that sometimes people in the community are hesitant to use that because they feel like it costs the district.
Yes, and no other kids will miss out. We have plenty of food. We're also doing the meal bags on Fridays that anyone can participate in. So
Love
yes,
that.
we want people to come.
Are you
And-
doing, I'm sorry. I thought
No,
you
go
were
ahead,
finished.
go ahead. I was just going to bridge the connection to this because we need people to utilize this for it to be successful as well, right? So
Correct.
when we approve these schools, we really need to have families that are allowing their kids to eat school lunch, breakfast, and that sort of thing. And that's where some of the downfall had come from the district-wide use, correct?
Correct.
It wasn't being utilized enough. So I just feel like that's important to highlight publicly, to kind of lower those barriers
That
as
and
well.
previously, the reimbursement rate for the CEP program for the whole district wasn't enough to cover the meals. So 65% of our meals were reimbursed at the free rate and the rest were reimbursed at the paid rate. It's a pretty big difference, like $4.27 for a free meal versus 42 cents, I think, was the paid.
So that's
it's
where
a
we
big
got.
difference,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we will not run into that with this.
So Simmons and Safe Harbor, with their high percentage, we will get all of the meals reimbursed at the free rate. So we won't run into that problem again.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm sorry.
You mentioned several places where you were doing this. Are you doing any in Midway?
So we are delivering to Midway for the meal bags. Anyone who's reached out to me who can't come to a site, we deliver directly to their homes.
Do you know how many people have reached out to you, number-wise?
I'm not 100%. I can get that to you though.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you for
Thank
all
you.
you do for our district.
Absolutely.
You do a fantastic job.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve special education policy and procedures update?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? Questions? Nope, we're good. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve the first reading of the KSB annual policy and procedure update?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion?
I noticed there's some errors in it. I don't know if that's something you want me to.
Let's see. Who is Dr. Rayburn?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead.
Oh.
It's the next one. I apologize.
Okay. So we're good on this one? All
I
right.
think so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, can I have a motion to approve emergency reading of traceable communications policy 08.2324?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. And discussion?
I found some errors in it.
I think it would be good just to speak
Yeah.
kind of broadly about what
Yeah,
what is
doc-
even happening here.
Yeah, Dr. Rayburn's coming up.
Oh.
Good evening, Board, and thank you for letting me be the lovely messenger of this lovely bill, KRS 160.145, which pertains to traceable communication on all fronts related to student and adult communication, to and from. So this bill does not cover adult-to-adult communication. So there's been a lot of stuff on social media lately about, I cannot comment on a parent's blah, blah, blah. That is adult to adult. This bill covers student to adult. Okay, so I have a little presentation for you that I've just pulled straight from the law. Okay, so The law is available to you if you would like to look at it and see it. You can just search KRS 160.145 and you'll find it, or SB 181, which goes into great deals of information. I also want to say the point behind this law is to protect students, which I fully support. I just want to throw that out there, that this law is meant to protect children, and I support that 100%. So don't take this law as it has a lot of bad in it. Like, it doesn't. It's behind good intentions with some areas of growth needed to make it more effective. So Senate Bill 181 was passed recently. It goes into law on June 27th, 2025, which is why we have to do an emergency reading, because we do not have a board meeting to do our second reading prior to this law taking into effect. And that'll give us enough time to continue to communicate with our stakeholders on exactly what this law means and how we have to abide by it. So getting started, the law covers some different terms in here about what is what. And then all of this is coming straight from KSBA. We did not interpret this. There are some things that were interpreted, but let me speak that. Mr. Morgan, myself, Mr. Wells, Ms. Bailey have all been, we were just communicating about it today. So there's a lot of communication that's still up in the air about this one. But there are 5 different terms that are pertaining to this bill, and I'll go through each of those. So we're going to start with a family member. A family member is associated with a parent, brother, sister, son, daughter, aunt, uncle, or grandparent. The reason why I point this out to you is it does not include your cousins, your in-laws, your step relations, or any other family members that live in the household that are not immediate family, otherwise what's listed in the first one there. Big problem. Parents are parent, legal guardian, or other person or agency responsible for a student, so it does cover students in foster care and other agencies where they have legal protection. It also covers legal guardians to the effect of a legal guardian. The issue is if a step parent doesn't have legal rights to his child, they are not considered part of this law. A school district employee or volunteer, and by the way, Mr. Morgan, you just feel free to unmute and take it away if I go rogue. It's okay. So a school district employee or volunteer is a school administrator, classified or certified employee of a school district, school volunteer, non-faculty coach or assistant coach, student teacher, or sponsor of an extracurricular or activity. This bill does not include independent contractors and vendors, board members, parent SBDM council members, booster club members, or PTO members that do not meet category number 1. Unless you're a volunteer.
Elaborate on that again, please, because I think
I'll
that's
get
important.
to it. I'll get to it. Traceable communication platforms. Our system is one or more electronic school notifications or communication programs or applications. It is designated by you, the board, of what those designated platforms are. You have to be able to trace all communication sent to or by a student and provide parents with an opportunity to access and review those communications. And then the unauthorized communication is electronic communication with a student by a school district employee or volunteer. So remember, that's the school district volunteer or employee. It was labeled ahead of us before, so you have to refer back to who it's talking about. That is the school administrator, classified certified employee, school volunteer, non-faculty coach or assistant coach, student teacher, or sponsors. So that is who a school designated district employee or volunteer represent, who is not the family member, student's family member that occurs outside of a designated traceable communication system and without prior written communication from the parent. This includes any personal email communications, text messaging, social media, or other communication notifications and communication programs outside of that traceable communication system. So if it's not done by what the board has approved in that communication platform, and the parent hasn't given permission through the proper forms that are required, then it is violating this law. So I'll keep going and then we'll get to questions, because I know there's plenty of questions, because I have plenty of questions too. Hit the button for me. I'm not back there to push it. Thank you. All right, so the responsibility of the board is to designate a traceable communication system to be exclusive means for a school district employee or volunteer to communicate. These are the recommended traceable communication platforms that we are recommending to the board to present as part of this emergency reading for the parents and staff members to know about and volunteers to know. That would be Parent Square, Gmail using the woodford.kyschools.us domain. That includes our student. That is also student.woodford.kyschools.us. Infinite Campus, GoGuardian. GoGuardian is our screen monitoring system. So any of the platforms that do screen monitoring or fall under the category of GoGuardian. Obviously, Infinite Campus is our communication platform to communicate grades, attendance, and they have messaging features there. Canvas is our learning management system, which is being used at the secondary level. Google Classroom is being used at the elementary school level. Class Dojo for districts is very specific that it's for the districts, not just the normal Class Dojo. I was on a meeting with Class Dojo today. We're getting that set up and rolling so that that also does meet the qualifications. So I went ahead and put it on there. Any of those Microsoft education products, which would include Microsoft Teams, email, if we were to use email through them, Word, all of that stuff, and any of the Google Workspace for Education products that are not mentioned specifically, put that under there because all of that is traceable that we can communicate there. Okay. Any questions about that?
The Google Classroom, does that include like video? Like if there's an NTI day and they need to video chat with their teacher, does that include that?
Yeah, if it's through your all's Google Workspace platform, which includes Google Meet, then
Okay.
that would be part of what you all
Okay.
are designating.
I just wanted to make sure.
The key is that for all of these systems, the district controls the accounts so that students' parents can access the accounts. Because that's the key under the bill, is that the systems you're using need to be traceable and they need to be accessible by parents.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions related to that?
So are we going to share, like, for example, the Gmail accounts and that sort of thing, that our students, their password information to parents so they can access those accounts? Is that something that the law requires, that we provide that access?
So already, their username and password would be part of their education records. Parents would have a right to call the district and get that already.
But we don't have to distribute it.
So, you need to make sure that if the parent wants access, the parent has access, right?
But
And
they need to
if the
call
kid
and
goes in
request.
and if a student goes in and changes their password, right, and the parent says, well, they changed their password, you need to provide the new password. We're going to be on the specifics of how that's communicated and what is actually distributed to parents, as opposed to here's the contact information for how you can get it. We're going to be working on that, over the next month as we work on. There's a required notice that has to go out in July. And so we'll be working on the specifics of that language, how it's communicated to staff, how it's communicated to volunteers, and how it's communicated to parents, to make sure everyone understands, what this means and what they need to do.
And this goes live. What's the date?
June
27th.
27th.
Yeah, so the bill is effective June 27th. Notices are required to go out within 10 days of the beginning of the school year, which it has been pointed out is a different definition under Kentucky statutes than the first attendance day. So that's going to need to go out in early July 10th, and we'll be working on that. So.
Can I ask a question about what about coaches communicating with players? Because I think sometimes that's different, especially with older kids. Maybe they do, I don't know if they do a group chat or if it's something different.
It will have to go through one of these platforms. The law
Okay.
does not leave any alternative to that. The law, unfortunately, you mentioned older students, also doesn't differentiate between a minor student and a student who has reached the age of majority. So under the way that the statute is written, even a student who has reached the age of majority has to have a parental consent. There is, under the proposed policy and statute, a parental consent policy, so parents could sign consents. That consent is a one-to-one. There is no blanket consent for all employees. It is this specific employee may communicate with my student. And of course, in a team setting, if any one student didn't have that consent, it would have to be separate communications. But that will apply equally to coaches and to volunteers who volunteer with the teams, travel with the teams, all of that as well.
Does this include phone communication, like a phone, like verbal I know it includes text and video chat, but what about verbal communication? So the scenario, one of the things I'm thinking about, like, is if you're on a field trip, like the Chicago trip or something like that, and you're responsible for a group of children, I guess parent consent can be given before that happens.
Right, parent consent can be given before that. There are some gray areas in the definitions in the bill. We're going to be working hopefully to get additional guidance on that, clear up some of those gray areas. But you know, when in doubt, that parental consent form is, you know, the backdrop that the district can rely on because it is provided for in the statute.
And this would even be, let's say you have a staff member who's a coach outside of the school system, but they have students on, like you mentioned WISA earlier. So we have a staff member who's a WISA coach and has students on that has nothing to do with the school system, but they could still be held for this law, even though it has nothing to do with school.
That is the way the statute is written,
Yep.
yes.
I'm just asking these to give clarity to people because I know these things are going to come up, and so-
vice versa from volunteer. And a volunteer is anybody who helps out in the schools.
Right.
It's got a background check.
Right.
Yeah.
So like me, like as a board member, this doesn't apply, but if as a watchdog in the schools, it applies.
That's correct.
So does the capacity of volunteer ever end? If you're volunteering for a day as watchdog, are you no longer a volunteer after a certain period of time?
That is not defined in the statute.
Right. So
Nor
this
is the school day defined. So it's not like a certain time frame.
I want to say something, but I'm almost afraid to say something.
Yeah.
I'm
And-
just, I think that we have to, and I don't know who's listening or who's watching, but I think it's incredibly important to understand the bounds of volunteer when we talk about this. Like, just listen up. I guess is the.
and from what I understand, your status as a volunteer can be revoked if.
Yeah, I got that coming.
Oh, you got that coming? Okay. So I'll just wait then.
All right, we're going to keep going. So the responsibility of the principal, which will happen at the district level on behalf of the school principals within 10 days of the school year, which will be by July 10th. We have to send notice out to all families, notifying them of the approved traceable communication systems and how to access and review. So we have to do that by July 10th, not in August. Yay, yes.
How do you handle transfers? Like if a student transfers mid-year?
It'll be part of their notifications that they get at the beginning.
Okay, so the 10-day thing wouldn't apply in that situation.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they'll get it on the first day of school when they get all their other first of, opening days.
Are we going to share this information as a policy with volunteers? Like when you if you sign up your volunteer for your background check, are we going to say, here's your copy of so you understand the bounds that you're engaging in as well? So people aren't blindsided. I think about our consistent volunteers and I worry about them who may have phone numbers and engage with students and are used to engaging with students in this capacity.
Yeah, we have working on communication plans as we speak right now. It'll be in the employee or the volunteer handbook as well.
Awesome.
So you're going to be approving that tonight, hopefully, and then once you all approve that and we get this squared away, we are going to update the volunteer handbook with that information once we have all of this squared away.
Are we going to notify our volunteers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So there'll be a process.
Yes.
I just don't want them to be blindsided.
Absolutely, absolutely, because this is, as you'll be seeing here, it's going to be a big beast to.
Yes, I
Yeah,
don't envy
exactly.
you all at all. You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, I hope that we get some screen time with the Woodford son, Mr. Vaughn. Maybe we'll get something in the paper too. Maybe. Okay.
And I know we have volunteers here this summer too, so those are other things that.
Yeah. So again, this is our recommendation to the board. There are anything that goes. You can go to the next one. Here is the permission to communicate outside of the communication platforms. So a parent may submit a consent to authorize a designated school district employee or volunteer who is not a family member to communicate electronically with his or her child outside of a traceable communication system. This shall be filed in the office of the school prior to the communication. So it can't happen after the fact, it has to happen before. It shall be designated only to a single school-specific district employee or volunteer. You cannot transfer it or make blanket statements for the whole school. It has to be school-specific and volunteer, or not school-specific, person-specific. Also noting a football team who has several volunteers, several coaches. Each coach, each volunteer has to have an approved form by a parent signed. So that could be 12 to 15 forms that are signed by parents, giving that coach or volunteer specific permission. It cannot be a blanket statement for a program. You can't say huddle, which is a very mainframed system out there, is not traceable. We have that in writing. They're working on it, and then when it becomes approved, we can work on getting that approved. But right now, it is not traceable. That means any sports program that uses Huddle to communicate or post videos online and other things, they have to have a parent permission to do that. So it is a lot of paperwork that we just now get to deal with. And a parent may revoke it at any time. They can also set specific restrictions on what that parent or that person can or cannot do. They can be specific that you can only communicate with them through Huddle. You can't communicate them with through everything else. And we have to adhere to whatever their restrictions are. And that they can also establish the terms. And it shall not authorize a school district employee to engage in inappropriate or sexual electronic communications with a student, or that being used as a basis of defense of a school district employee that engages in inappropriate or sexual electronic communication. Just thought you wanted to know that.
The may be revoked by any time of the parent. Is there a notification process for that volunteer or school district employee to be able to be told that, hey, your parent has revoked communication? And what is the time frame for that?
That can happen at any point, at any time. It could happen right as they're running out on the field.
Right, but where's the clause of, hey, guess what, you can't talk to my kid anymore, or whatever that may be? That revocation, I think I made up a word, but that time period. So if I revoke you communicating with my kid as you're running out on the field, how does that communication get to that volunteer so no longer?
Yeah, so that's part of, Dr. Rayburn mentioned that the administration is working on communication plans. That's part of what they're working on, is how that gets communicated in the event it occurs and developing a protocol for that. You know, I expect that the policy needs to go ahead and be passed because it's mandated by statute. I expect that you will see procedures with forms and things like that as this further gets developed. And, you know, in addition to, you know, the protocols they're putting in place now.
Awesome.
Our goal is to have this started for at least getting the form out to the public by the end of this week. And that is on our goal. You can see that the first part of that is the KSBA recommended form. It's just cut off in half. It's in the policy and procedure that's on there. We will be taking that and making it to an electronic form that parents can do that. It will also go straight to the coach or the volunteer or the employee so that they can sign it, because it does require that the staff member or volunteer sign off on their agreement of this terms as well, that they'll adhere to it. So we are trying to make it electronic, but it is going to cause us a lot of paperwork and a lot of headache and hassle. But like I said, that's just what we have to do.
What about our contracted employees, like our therapists, our nursing staff, that sort of thing?
It does not, independent contractors is not mentioned in the bill.
Okay, so we don't have to include them.
Our nurses are contracted through the school district. They're classified employees, so they would be. But if we had a Cumberland Family Medical employee, they're not under the same obligations. And as we are presenting this, is straight from KSBA. The wording is straight from KSBA, so we're not adding to or taking away from, just adding our traceable communications. This is what has been pushed around social media quite a bit. If you've been following social media, it does include social media, and social media is one of those things that, again, if it's student to teacher, student to volunteer, student to whatever, that is what happens. Like, that falls under that unless they have specific parent permission on the approved form. Did we decide if it's district to district, or does it stay only within the district?
We're working on
Yeah,
guidance. For that,
we don't know if it's, because it's a little vague on if it's all or if it's just Woodford County. So we're still working on that one. All right. Are you sure? I give you the light too. You go right ahead.
I just wanted to make clear to the board members what Dr. Rayburn was referring to there. The bill doesn't define when it talks about communications between a student and a district employee, it just says an employee of a school district. It doesn't say the school district where the person is employed.
Yeah, it's
So
not the,
That's,
yeah.
yeah, it's the definitions leave something to be desired there. So we're working on how that's going to be implemented and additional guidance on that. We're continue to work with KSBA on that as well. But that's what Dr. Rayburn was referring to. And I wanted to make clear.
So for
what
instance,
that
if you're
issue is.
hosting a student from another county in Kentucky,
Or you have kids that go here and you're a teacher over in Fayette County, you know, but we got to figure, we're working on it.
Okay.
But as far as we know, it's a, not the. So we're getting further guidance. We're working through it. And just so you're aware that we started our communication back on May 21st when we really got a good understanding of what this bill was saying and what it was meaning. And after meeting with Mr. Morgan and watching a few webinars that were posted about it, we wanted to make staff aware of this, that it was coming. And we only had 2 days to really get it up and going. So I just wanted to provide you that we did send this out to staff. We are still in the process of making sure coaches are notified. They would have received this communication as well, but some, don't check their Woodford email, and so they might not have seen it. So we have been working with our ADs at both the middle school and the high school and our district AD to make sure that this is being pushed out to them as well. And our next steps is through our volunteers. And like I said, we're working on what does that communication look like at all levels before June 27th when this goes live. And the sad part is it goes live right in the middle of Dead Week, which is a big deal for sports. So if they come back after Dead Week and start texting and they don't have the correct parental consent, they are in violation of this law. So we have to get it out before Dead Week.
and just to be clear, this would just be if the staff member is only, say, texting a student. But if it's on a group chat with, like, the parents are on there, so, like, I'm texting a parent and the student's on there,
You cannot.
you cannot even do
You
that,
cannot do that because it's outside of a traceable communication system.
even
As-
though their parent is on that.
Even though their
same-
parent is on that. Now, there is, in the parental consent provision of the bill, there is a provision that says, for example, a parent can limit their consent to communications that the parent is included on, right? But the way the bill is written, any communication that is outside one of the systems that is designated by the board that is traceable is prohibited unless that parental consent is in place, even if the parent is included on the communication.
That's important to know.
And I know that this is more of a procedure question, but with this consent form, because this does eclipse outside of our school buildings and our school system in situations like we're talking about, like with team sports, but even parent engagement with other students that might be a volunteer, is there a way, are we housing the consent forms within always in the school system? So like say we communicate with our club sports, our WISA, our rec, our Parks and Rec to say, here's the consent form, who's responsible for doing that? Or even just that dialogue between friends.
Yeah, so where the
Yeah.
consent form is maintained by the district is specified by the statute. How that is communicated to volunteers is, one of the issues we're working through.
I guess to achieve that consent, if you're not directly connected to that person through the school system, but you're still connected to, in one capacity or another, to the school system where this goes into effect, just like the example of team sports, if you're on that group chat or whatever it may be,
So,
and you're a volunteer and you're engaging with kids in a roundabout way, does that consent have to go through the school?
so
to be able to-
Dr. Rayburn can correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
but the consent, yes, it does have to go through the school district. It does have to be kept on file in a particular office. But as far as how the person who's subject to the consent will know about it, my understanding is the form we're using, that the person who is the subject, the school district employee or volunteer who's the subject of consent will get a copy of it and will have to acknowledge that so that they know any limitations that are contained in that. For example, you may communicate with my student through GroupMe, but only in a communication to the entire team or only in a communication where I, as the parent, am also included. But yes, they will have to be notified of that consent. If they're not notified of the consent, they shouldn't, under this statute, engage in the communication.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do they have to seek out the consent through the school?
Yes.
So Like,
There is no definition that determines whether it's a student. If they're a student in Woodford County, they abide by that. There's no, because they're in the praise band, they're only going to church, but the praise band leader is also a volunteer for the district. And they send out a chat through their, whatever they're using, that has to be documented in the district, or they will, if it's found out to be true that they're texting them, a volunteer is banned forever.
So you have to go through, they would have to contact the district and say, hey, I need to have consents in place.
It's an
for-"
online, it's an
Excellent.
online
Okay.
form, so they can
They
have,
can just go
the
through it
kids
and
can,
do it.
yeah.
And so there is a process, I guess,
Yeah.
around, but it's just like going to be cumbersome.
Yeah, so we, like I said, we're working on our procedures right now. The form itself is an electronic form that has workflow built into it where the parent starts it, then it goes to the person to sign it. That's their notification of what they can and can't do. They both complete it, then both parties get a signed copy of that thing. What we have to continue to work on is if a parent revokes it, what is that notification? How does that look? Because KSBA did not provide us with this is what the revoke looks like. They just provided us with the consent. So we still are working through that. And so that is the fun part. The next part here is what happens if you have to report it. It's a tattletale law, which means if you know about it, you have to report it, just like anything else. And there are specific things that have to happen based off of what your title is. Basically, if you're a classified employee, that's up to the district on how reprimand happens, and that is a district policy or district procedure that would be followed. Same thing happens with certified. There's a district policy or district reprimand that would happen that you went outside of that for classified and certified. The only difference between classified and certified is a certified employee, which is any of our teachers or administrators that hold a teaching certificate, they're certified, they get reported to EPSB. A superintendent that does it also gets reported to the commissioner. And then a district volunteer that is found to have done an illegal or unauthorized communication is banned from being a volunteer ever. It doesn't say that within a year, it says from future school and district volunteer opportunities. So, yay us. But again, there's a lot to this law, and it all fit in 2 pages, which I don't know how that happened, but there's a lot there to digest. And we don't know all the answers, but we do know if a team member wants to continue to use their Team Snap account, they can, but every team member has to have a form for every coach, volunteer, parent, volunteer that's on there, volunteer coach that may send out a message, even one may send out a message. They have to have that signed form. So I was speaking with a teacher today who's going on a trip to Germany with her students, and she's like, I've got all these people, and I was like, well, all those people have to have individual parent permissions to communicate, even in a foreign country. So
I want to say, and this is like you said, well-intended with lots of consequences to this bill, and this is not something the board can do anything about because it is KRS statute. I would encourage every person who may have a concern about the language in this bill to reach out to their elected officials. Amanda Bledsoe, Dan Pfister, let them know your concerns. This is not anything that we can do as a board, and I appreciate all the work that you all have done to
trust us, we don't want to be going through this as much either, but like I said, I understand and support the reason behind it, which is to protect kids from inappropriate relationships and stuff that happen, unfortunately. But this is the way the law is written, so this is how we have to follow it.
And I think that that's the point, right? Like, this is a very well-intended bill. It is to protect kids. But again, there's major hurdles that probably were not anticipated with this bill. So if that's something that you have concerns about.
I would anticipate some cleanup happening in the next general session, but
There's some things that need to be defined better.
yeah,
For sure.
so.
Did you have anything else to present? All right. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor of approving emergency reading of traceable communication policy 08.23.
Mr. Brickler, Sorry, hang on 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Because the school mentioned that she noticed just some typographical errors.
Yes,
And so my suggestion would be, since those are typographical only and you're not gonna have a second reading, that you entertain a motion to approve this with the corrections that she identifies, as long as they're just typographical and not.
there are, like, there's a, like, for example, so if you go down to definitions, family, family member, parent, district employer, volunteer, it says means a school administrator, classified or certified employee, volunteer. There needs to be a comma there, just to delineate that that's a volunteer, not an employee
What
volunteer.
page are you on?
I'm on the second page, sorry. The definition of a district employee or volunteer. Classified or certified employee, volunteer. There should be a comma between employee and volunteer. Just to make that clear. And then, sorry, there was another one. That was the main one, but there was one more. I'm so sorry, I should have marked it down, I just didn't.
This is something normally we'd correct on a second reading if you could, but since you don't have a second reading, I think better to do it now than have to
Sure.
correct something later.
There's one more, I just couldn't find it. That was the main one, just
Okay.
I think the other one was just typographical in nature. It wasn't anything major, but
Okay, and we can clean that up if we need to. But so then I would entertain a motion to approve the policy with the correction of the error that Ms. Gould just identified. Adam, if you want to call for that motion.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve emergency reading of traceable communication policy 08.2324 with the typographical error that was identified? All right. Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve school handbooks? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve district volunteer handbook? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion?
will this be updated in the volunteer handbook? Yes. Okay, so we can approve it and then go back and add it.
So yeah, I'd like to, if you all would approve that tonight with the condition that we will update that with the new.
Traceable.
Yep, yes, it will be added as we approved that tonight.
So do I need to read?
So I did not have that to add it
Right.
because it just got approved tonight.
Right. So
Yep.
is it okay for me to?
I mean, I can present it next month too. It's not a big deal. I mean, we can
Yeah.
approve it tonight and then I can present it again next month. Because it all happened at the same time, so,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, my preference would be to have it all done prior, but you all can't approve it without the language in front of you that you're going to approve.
Yeah, so you can approve it as it is and then I can present it again next month and you all can see it in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's not a
fine.
big deal.
Can we still make changes at that point? Is that okay?
I'm sorry?
Could we make changes at that point with the,
Yeah, of course, yeah, because I'll be with the team working with them as we have those documents. So I'll have more information and then we'll have that, I'll be working with the team. So I'll know all the documents that we'll have and we'll have them presented in there and we'll have more explanations
perfect.
and understanding with it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve district representatives for the Admissions and Release Committee ARC and 504 meetings? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve preschool instructional assistants contracted day increase? Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I
Thank
have
you,
a mo-
Board.
Oh, you're welcome. Can I have a motion to approve affiliation agreement with UK Hospital for student internships? Motion by Mr. Wilson. I'll second that one.
Can I ask a question? Do I need to, because I have a family member affiliated with UK Hospital, should I vote or abstain from voting?
I think we've run into this in the past. I don't think you have to abstain because it's a family member.
It's my spouse. That makes a
I think
difference.
we've had this question before and we didn't.
Yeah, I think we have, and I'm just pulling up the agreement to make sure I'm right, but I don't think there's any monetary component to the agreement, so your spouse wouldn't be deriving any type of benefit from that, especially if your spouse is just an employee, right? There's no revenue sharing, there's nothing that would be flowing as a benefit to your spouse.
He's a manager. The only thing I could see is employees in the future.
Okay. I don't see that as an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Not for this agreement. If there were an agreement that had other terms, feel
Yes.
free to ask me about it,
Just
but
want to double check.
given this, I think that's
Okay.
okay.
And I'm going to recuse myself because I do work for UK, so I would rather avoid any appearance of a conflict.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have recusal, so motion passes 3-0. Right? 3 to, yeah. All right. Can I have a motion to approve transfer of .5 music instructor allocation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve creation of counselor position for Woodford Virtual Learning Academy, WVLA?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve job title classification change request?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Can I have a motion to approve FY26 salary schedule and pay date schedule?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And that is it. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.